Hello, my ball boys and girls, and welcome to another 2-4. Today is a glorious day because we're not only talking about some local footy, we're also talking about a local football league. One that just had their final, and what a final it was. So without further ado, let us from the FC13 podcast welcome you to the League 1 Ontario final. And welcome, guys. Thank you so much. Welcome to the FC13 podcast. Welcome to our first ever YouTube special. This is going to be strictly on YouTube. We're not going to be uploading this soon. We're going to do things like Patreon, all that. So make sure to be keeping and paying attention. You get to see some specials and stuff like that. But today is going over a very special just event that happened. It's going to be the League 1 final. Just happened there on Saturday, Labor Day weekend. And while if you're familiar with our podcasts, you would have heard us talking about it. But if you're not familiar with it or you want to know a little bit more, I'm really glad you kind of tuned in. Because, Michael, how are you feeling tonight?
Feeling good, I mean, we're recording this right after the U.S. Open final there, where Sacramento unfortunately had a upsetting
A
loss.
little. Whoa. Let's not ruin it for anybody who might not have seen it or gone.
Oh,
And which, if they haven't, it's their own fault. But they've had a little
my
bit
bad.
of a fumble, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit. Which I mean, that's a local tournament for the U.S., right? So to stay on the track of our local leagues, if anyone from America is keeping track of us.
Yeah, we're repping you as well. So don't be sleeping on our sort of podcast there. We haven't forgot about you because again, make sure to support local footy. But kind of starting
100%.
things off, what is League 1, right? If you're new to football, soccer, if you're an experienced one, what is League 1? What does it mean? What does it mean to you? And in different parts of the world, it can mean different things. So in England, it's actually a high division of football, but in Canada, it's a fairly low division in the sense that it's one of the first ones that really get into the pro amateur side of things. It's not really paid, but it's too high to be sort of your local footy. I mean, it started up in 2014. We'll give you the quickest rundown. It sticks within our confederation, and it is technically level 3 in the Canadian football pyramid. Now, MLS is a little bit of a misnomer because it's technically an American league, and there's not really anything there, but it is still part of the Canadian sort of developmental program. It's one of the oldest League Ones that have been organized under that banner. And while there are now two others that really have been stepping up, and these teams have technically been around, and in some cases, decades and decades, it is one of the first ones that really started up under the League 1 banner. And it's really grown to a fairly sustainable and sizable 22 teams.
Yeah, it is, and it does get weird with the MLS to the CPL and obviously the League One Ontario. I think League One Ontario, I mean, technically would be the second tier in Canada when you consider the domestic league being on the first tier, right? It really is weird when it comes to Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto. Um, but yeah, no, this league is important, and we've seen a lot of professionals start off in this league. You look at Canadian players who started off. Kamal Miller started with Vaughan, um, Alistair Johnston. I'm blanking on a couple names here. I know I am, but I didn't prepare my list of players who used to play in this league, which is very stupid of me because there's a lot. Um, but this league is very important to not just to Ontario, but to the country. Um, for the longest time, this was our closest to professionalism. Once you come out of the MLS and the USL and the NASL, we had professional teams, but there wasn't a league, right? It's like this was our league. Even though it might not have a big following, but I think a lot of that may come down to marketing. And now that CPL is on, the CPL is in motion, I feel like there's definitely been more attention brought to League One Ontario and now the PLSQ and League One BC. These guys get spots in the Canadian Championship now. I mean, and that's been going for a couple of years now, but it really is grassroots as grassroots comes to Canada, right?
Yeah, I it was over 50 that we were sort of mentioned there of people who've made the jump.
Between men and
And
women, yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing is that League 1 really it's not just the men's, it's also the women's team that's really been developed and brought into the forefront, and something that you can't really take into it, because when you look at just the amount of teams and the history of some of these teams and the history of where they're playing and what they played under and where they've been. Footy isn't a new thing in Canada, and while we're getting a resurgence, we were in the World Cup 30 plus years ago. We were in different competitions around the world. We had larger leagues, we had presence internationally, but it's really just with the advantageous of so many people coming over, and we've now really kicked it into gear. So I find a lot of people are finally sort of seeing, okay, well, this is a bigger sport, and this is something where it's really a development path and something you can take. And the League One, personally, I think has been really good for that. I'm sure Michael agrees. We talked about some amazing games that's been going on,
Yeah.
and it's something that I want to see expand, and I want to see, that in that level of enthusiasm that we've just noticed even this year, and that was maybe missing in the past couple of years, not including the pandemic, because that's a shit show in its own right, but just the past couple of years of people who are like, well, I'm not going to support a local team. I'd rather drive 2.5 hours to Toronto to watch them play. Or now with the CPL, we want them to think, okay, well, this is something I can take and support. This is a team that I
Mhm.
can maybe look into petitioning to get, because Ontario, well, it is League 1 Ontario, and both me and Michael are Ontario boys. Technically Michael does spend a good chunk in there. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
as far as it stands, I am closer to every single one being in the GTA than Michael is to even the closest one,
Yeah.
and
It's it,
that's
it is insane.
it's by a large margin. And
Yeah.
imagine Ottawa getting themselves like a nice League 1 team. Like, I can guarantee you, despite the fact that they have Atletico, if you had a little town just outside of Ottawa, guaranteed you'd be
Well,
thriving.
to be fair, the Ottawa does have a team in the PLSQ,
Which
um,
which
which I
which is
do
its
believe
own problem. Which is its own
it
problem.
is weird.
God damn it.
Now, I do believe originally they were in League 1 Ontario. Now, for whatever reason, which I'm not totally familiar with, I do believe they left and then joined the PLSQ. It's a very weird thing. But yeah, like you said, based in Ottawa, I'm closer to Ottawa's team, obviously, but then I'm closer to Blainfield than probably most of the GTA teams. And it does suck that most of Ontario teams are in the GTA, but it makes sense too when you look at population. Um, and like you said, um, things are changing. Like different owners are coming in, different players are coming in. The amount of League 1 players that you had at least a year or two in the CPL now is there's a lot of players. They're bringing down professionalism to make the league better and to give themselves a second shot. And like you were saying, it's not just important for the men's, but I would argue it's more important for the women's since there is no professional league for Canada for women players. They have to go off to Europe. They have to go to America. But the League 1 Ontario women's um, these girls are getting a shot, and this is the way they have to show their talent. And they may not necessarily get a direct call to Canada, but this is where they start before going to Europe, before going to the US. And until the Canadians get a professional women's league, this is the best they have here, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that to knock the league, but when you're labeled pro amateur, that's going to affect money. That's going to affect fans. That's going to affect the way people look at the league. Like as exciting as League 1 Ontario is, like you were saying, I don't think it's necessary that people don't want to support their local team. People don't want to support the quality that's on the pitch, right? Like, why would
Yeah.
I go spend
Yeah.
$20 or whatever it is to like? Well, you were at the finals. How much did it cost you?
It was under $20, so it was still
Okay.
under $20. It is the one thing is it's very affordable. Okay, it is affordable. What I
Hmm.
don't like is the disparity in not the quality of the teams. I mean, shit, I have supported some teams in my lifetime that are in the highest division possible, and I'm like, wow, we don't deserve to be here. Like,
Yeah.
you're making more than I've made in the past 10 years a week. Like, it's from that quality, but you are right. I think the hardest part is the quality of
Hmm.
what they offer is match day,
And
because
it's not
that's what
saying
get
that it's not getting better, right? Like it is getting
oh,
better, but
night and day. Well, look at Electric City. they're
Exactly.
one of the newer ones that really kind of got up and running in Peterborough there, and they've offered
Mm-hmm.
really good match day stuff. Simcoe County is another one that's up in the Barrie area
St.
that's
Catharines
offering.
does a
St.
pretty good
Catharines,
job.
really, really good. I
Yep.
think to me, the quality on the pitch is dependent on the players, and it's a development league, so that's going to change every year
Well,
to
look
year.
how many players this year jumped from the League One to CPL. There's a
Yeah.
good handful, and
Oh yeah.
even though some of them may have already played, like Brown, who just signed with Pacific, sure, he played with Calvary before the League 1 Ontario, but this gave him a chance to kind of rejuvenate his career again and give him another shot.
Well,
So, sorry, go on.
it's a scenario of that rejuvenation, but you also get you get that like excitement of people saying, well, you know what, this isn't just a for fun anymore. Like, I'm not looking at these teams sort of showing up and saying, you know what, I think this is now just something I do on the weekday and the weekends. I think this is a
Mhm.
legitimate thing. If I put my heart and my soul into it, I could actually have a step up from there into a professional contract.
100%. It's a real
And
stepping stone,
yeah, and especially, and as you pointed out,
especially with the CPL. Yeah.
well, with the women's too, until they
Oh yeah.
finally get their fucking ass in gear and do something and give them, a spot. This is what they have, and it's
Mhm.
exciting. And I love the dedication from League 1 BC to League 1 Ontario to, I'm sure, the PLSQ, of giving them their time and their space and showing the games and showcase and
Mhm.
broadcasting them, doing the write ups. That's the right thing to do.
Oh,
If you're a
100%.
dickhead who says that, like, oh, it's the women's game, bro, get on the pitch with them. Because, like, I don't know about you, but I'm fat now, so like, they're gonna run circles around me any day. And you get on the
Oh
pitch
yeah.
with them, and you try,
It's like
you
getting in
go.
a cage with Ronda Rousey. See what the fuck happens,
Yeah,
buddy.
you're gonna get the shit kicked out of you. So
Like,
it's a scenario of like, take your misogynistic head out right out your ass and go.
mhm.
It's football.
How many?
Fucking go. They're not cutting off your Arsenal like game or your Manchester United
Yeah.
game so you can watch third division women's football. It's extra football. How is that not amazing and exciting, bro? That's awesome.
Well, I think a lot of people maybe just like, I watch my team, and I think that's what a majority of fans, honestly, that I've learned over the years is, and I would say soccer is probably the least sport like this, but you'll have the fans that they watch their team, right, and their team only. They put aside the 2 hours for their team, which, I mean, I get it. You have a busy day, you do you. I don't mind it, especially if you're supporting local. You're going out to CPL games. You're going out to the League 1 Ontario, whatever it is. Support is support, and that's how you make the sport grow. You're gonna sit here and bitch about the CPL not being the level of the MLS. You know what changes that?
Yeah.
Selling out stadiums.
Yep. Show up. Put your money where your mouth is. And you know what?
Yep.
The thing is, too, is you are right in the sense of supporting one team, but when your team is also willing to foot the bill for a women's team,
Yeah.
you know what? Put your money where your fucking mouth is. You're
Which is
supporting
something we're
you
behind on,
support
right?
your team. Yeah, you're supporting your
Does the
team.
MLS do anything like that?
The MLS has got a weird. It's one of the weirdest systems on the planet in terms of footy and how their contracts work, the teams work, all this stuff.
Mhm.
So I bet you any money that each one of those teams have probably tried to approach it in a different way and have been shut down.
So they have
Garrett,
no women associated teams.
like, no, not right now.
No.
No, it's
And
just it's
that's
the
why
MLS.
Europe's miles ahead of us, isn't it?
Oh, massively. That's why
Yeah.
we are going to suffer. Only America is going to do better because they have their professional league. It's just the way it is.
It's
MLS is
amazing how well
MLS
the
is
women
gonna.
have done.
Yep.
I mean, like the Canadian women with
But
no league.
I know, with no league, and I mean, I just wonder when that's going to implode. So
I think we might be on that track, but we'll get to
we,
that another day.
which is very unfortunate. But kind of moving on, we did get into our playoff segment, so this is now one of the interesting things. So League 1 Ontario did just do their finals. They did their finals there on the Saturday, and it was super incredible. But running up to that, and this was the men's finals. The women's finals happened a little bit earlier, and that it's such a weird run up. So it is still North American sports. We crave our playoffs. We crave our playoffs. We're not just top of the league and you're done. So when it really boiled down to it, 22 teams across the men's division. I'm going to get a little bit wrong, but I think we're in and around a similar number for the women's division as well. And I
I
feel
believe
bad.
so, yeah.
Yeah. So it really boils down to the exact same quarterfinals, semis, and finals. Obviously, there's no divisional because we're not the MLS and doing that stupid shit. The women's, I found, was very, very balanced. It was anyone's game. for the most part, until you get to kind of in and around like the 15th, 16th, then it really tapered off.
Hmm.
The men's, crystal clear. You had your cutoff, everyone else below,
Hmm.
and that was it. And you had an unbeaten team that ran
Yep.
into the playoffs, unbeaten, undefeated.
Invincibles, baby.
Like that is insane in any league at all, because this is
Hmm.
it's not 10 games, it's not 6 games in total. There were 21 games played, and undefeated in 21 games is just incredible. So the quarterfinals laid out for the men's as follows: you had Alliance United versus the Pro Stars Football Club. That ended in a 4-0 for Alliance. Was a good game. Great to watch. Remember, almost every single game we're going to mention here today, you can go back on YouTube and watch. So if you
Hmm.
haven't, just go do it. Go grab a couple drinks, like power through and make some bets. And then listen to this pod or watch this first, so that way you know the scores ahead of time, so you can make some money. Inside betting, baby. The other quarterfinal, we had the Nitro Soccer Association and Simcoe County. Again, that was two matchups that were almost kind of predictable based
Yeah.
on the standings.
I mean, Pro Stars have done well in the league before. I believe they've won the league before, but and Simcoe played a great game in their match, and I felt like both that game went either way. Simcoe got two late ones. Uh, it is what it is. I mean, I was low key rooting for Simcoe. If you, for those who don't know, or listen to the podcast regularly, where we mentioned this, Simcoe's owned by a bunch of Canadian players. You have Kyle Laren, Julian de Guzman, Atiba Hutchinson. I think Donnell Henry's on it now, and Janine Becky is also on it. So I kind of have a soft spot for them. I mean, they're probably the type of team that all the other teams hate, but I don't. I'm not. I don't have any strings attached to that league, so let's go Simcoe. But yeah, I know you're right. Judging by the table, but Simcoe finished lower on the table. Am I wrong?
They did finish lower,
Yeah.
but by the fraction of a margin, and they
Yeah.
were above most of the times. They finished both on 44 points, so it was like
Okay.
it was by a fraction, and for most of it, it was a lot of Simcoe County gaining momentum.
And
There
yeah, I was
just
about to
seemed to
say
be
they came into it hot. So.
yeah, it was just a scenario where it was almost written in the stars.
Hmm.
Pro stars, you'd say.
Oh,
Oh, that took way more.
zingers.
That took way more brain power than it really should have. Then the next two, you had the semis, and the semis just basically were exactly what you figured they would have been. You had the
Hmm.
Blue Devils, who were second in the division, up against moved up Alliance. That ended in a 3-2 for Blue Devils. You know what? When you have it come to the standings, you'd expect nothing, no other way. Second semifinal, Simcoe had moved on up against Von Azuri, our undefeateds. Now, again, you'd expect nothing less. It went on Vaughn 2-1 though,
It was
which
close.
was which is still anyone's game when you get into that kind of stuff, right? Like that's still kind
It
of
is a pretty
shocking.
back and forth game. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
Simcoe
absolutely.
was in it. They never fell out.
Absolutely. And so then we end up at the finals. Now, if we go back over to the women's, like I said, it's not as crystal clear and as cut, but we see a kind of consistency in teams. We see some development consistency, some money consistency, some ability to really perform. Because in the quarterfinals, we had FC London, which is always nice to see. Which they are traditionally a good team, up against Simcoe County, which we're very familiar with. Now, this time tables are turned. FC London goes on 4-3.
That was a good game.
It
I mean, 4-3 just spells good game, really.
that is just amazing to watch. Like when you get
Hmm.
those kind of goals. And here's the thing: goals in League One, and Michael will say, Paul, our other host will say, they're not simple tap-ins 90% of the time. They are either rockets, they're either like weird technical goals, or they're ones where you're like, I can't believe that went in. They're
I would say
they're
that, yeah.
they're
The
just shocking.
because if you're not familiar with the league, it's a very hard defensive league. Teams defend, then attack. Breaking down some of these teams' lineups are mental. You'll see low scoring games. You'll see 1-0, 2-0. Typically, we don't get those 4-3 games because they focus on defense. They figure you stop a ball, you'll score eventually.
Yeah. Yep. And then moving on, you have Woodbridge SC and against Alliance United, somebody that we're pretty familiar with. Now it ends 0-1 for Woodbridge, which is a bit unfortunate. I mean, Woodbridge were fairly high. They
Yeah,
were they were they were doing quite well, so they ended in third position. So it was an unfortunate end of their run, and Alliance did pull
mm-hmm.
it around. But you have the momentum of both teams being in it. You're going to just continue that momentum. We
Mm-hmm.
move on to the semifinals. We go into the absolute powerhouses and shithousery of what should be the ultimate shithousery, which is the NDC Ontario, or the National Development Center of Ontario, which is literally just an entire organization designed and built and developed to just smash the shit out of everybody by making these people pro
To be
women's
fair, that's
footballers.
basically what Vaughn does as well.
Well, speaking of that, they were playing FC London, and so obviously NDC goes on 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Vaughan then comes up against our Alliance United, and Vaughan was the league winners on both tables.
Yep,
You've got, and remember,
in their blood. It is in
Vaughan
their blood.
women's were only lost by one
Yeah,
once. So they also were very close to being
yeah.
undefeated. And that's incredible.
It always
But
blows my mind when these two don't actually win the league. And for the men's, at least, I think it's been 2 years since they've won the league or so.
yeah, yeah, it was
So
2019, I believe, was
I
was
think
their
so.
their last win.
And
So
then, yeah, with COVID and stuff too. So because League 1 Ontario was cancelled for 1 year, I believe, wasn't it?
yeah, they
So
threw they were very dominant, and dominant for a reason. It
mhm.
was clear and crystal. Like, just
Exactly. I
showed.
mean, they have systems right down to their kids, and there's no wonder why so many players come out of this because most of them do come from Vaughan. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, they come out, they find, they develop, they spend the time, they spend the money, they fundraise, they make sure that these players can play and get the time needed. And that's what this whole thing is about, and really is. So I do like seeing some shakeups, but
Oh,
obviously
sure.
wasn't the case this year. But Alliance did overtake Vaughan in the semifinals in a 2-1 format. And that brings us both to the finals on each. But before we do that, we're going to go to a quick break in a sense. We're going to talk about our sponsor, and that's Bet99. Bet99 is a premier betting platform that's based in Ontario that's designed to help you make bets, just like what you do overseas, but it's going to be for the CPL. It's going to be for MLS. It's going to be for all of your footy needs, but it's also going to be for the CFL, NBA, and like MLB,
NHL, got
NHL.
Canadian on us.
Yeah, it's going to have your whole betting gambit, and it's also one of the few things that actually allows you to take the time, find the local teams, while also still staying within Ontario and making some conscious bets. It's something that sponsored us and reached out, and we really support them in that way. We're actually super happy with them. I personally use Bet99 making some of my bets. I do recommend not following my predictions, but instead following Michael's predictions,
Oh
because
no.
Michael's predictions are a little bit better. And you know what, Michael, let's say what's your coming up on the next CPL couple games.
We got York and Edmonton on Friday night.
Okay, and what do you think is going to happen?
I think York is going to smash it.
Okay, beautiful. What else we got?
We have Ottawa and Pacific, I believe, this weekend. I'm gonna go with a. Both teams need a win. They're gonna be defensive. I'm gonna go with a 0-0 draw.
Beautiful. So you've heard him there. Those are our picks for the week for the CPL. Beauty is we're one of the few leagues. It's one of the few betting sites that allows you to do that. And that's one of the nicest things. Now, remember, please bet and gamble responsibly. Never bet something you can't afford to lose. And this is all in conjunction with ICANN Ontario and iGambling Ontario. And remember, responsible betting is better betting. But moving on, we're going to go on to the League1 Ontario final. Let's start off with the women's because obviously that one happened first. We
Mm-hmm.
had kind of a blowout, but not really. We had Alliance United versus NDC. So the National Development Center, those are two boys showing up. 3-1. That was the final. Like 3-1 was
It
was
was.
our turnout.
Alliance was a little bit disappointed in that one. We watched it for the podcast, and I remember thinking, this is Alliance. They've been a big name all season, both on both ends of the tables, and to go into the finals like that and lose 3-1, like it was disappointing to see from them, in all honesty. But they had a really good season. I think that's something you just tell the girls. Like, the ball doesn't always bounce your way. It doesn't always go our way. Losing is a learning opportunity, right? and that's how you become professionals. You don't become a professional without losing. And hopefully there's a lot of players from the League 1 Ontario women who have now signed contracts in Europe this past off season. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a few come in, and it is always impressive to see. It's always good to see. Unfortunately, though, Alliance fell short on that one, and but even though they fell short, they went on to the interprovincial
Hmm.
championship because NPC was not available for can't remember what reason. There was a scheduling issue with their team, but Alliance were able to represent Ontario in the women's interprovincial championship, where they also lost, but at least they were there. And you almost think they knew going into that game if they lost, they would still be at that tournament. Do you think that impacted their efforts?
I don't think it impacted their efforts. I think that team, they wanted to win a trophy. They wanted to lift it. I think that maybe helped in their sorrows afterwards, that they
Hmm.
were going to move on and maybe had another crack at the can, because I know the women play hard, and especially in this league. I just think
Hmm.
what it did for them was gave them the opportunity to not dwell on it and think we have another chance. Obviously, it didn't pan out well. Now, remember, Alliance had done well to get up to that point. They were sixth going into the playoffs at the
Hmm.
very bottom and got up to the final. And that enough was a pat on his back, because again, these are the leagues where disparity can be significant.
No, for sure.
And so they got there. Unfortunately, obviously, the NDC Ontario couldn't make it, but they were still able to go there and represent, because remember, one of the two had to be there. And if it wasn't going to be NDC, having a semifinalist there would have just been
Well, how else would you decide? In all honesty.
exactly like it would have been almost irresponsible in a sense. And
Hmm.
that is something, if you want to check it out, we do talk about the interprovincial championships. Amazing. First, that
Hmm.
first of its kind in Ontario. Lots to come up, but let's move over to the men's. That was not a fun venture for one of the two teams.
Yeah.
And I'll let you guess who it was in 3, 2, 1. The undefeated team, obviously. 5-1 was the final total.
Mental.
4-1 was the halftime score. We talk about it in length in our last podcast. So if you really want to get in depth, make sure to go check out FC13 Podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, to check it out, see what we talk about. But that did not end the way it really should have, because
Fuck no.
Blue Devils went in there hard, went in there just reeling off a good win, and just crumbled.
Hmm. Blue Devils almost remind me of Calvary from the CPL. They're a big name. They're always at the top, but they just cannot pull the fucking trigger where it matters. And to go down 4-0 in a finals before the 45 minutes is up, that's it's inexcusable in all honesty. Um, Now I don't even know what to say about the Blue Devils. How do you go onto the pitch the second half of a cup game, losing 4-0? Like, what do you even say to the guys?
Well,
Like,
thankfully it was 4-1. That goal right at the end,
oh,
four
sorry,
one.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But even as such, that consolation goal right at the end there, it it's you have to be manager of the century to really rally the team up,
Really, yeah.
and especially at that level against a team like that. If
Yeah.
Vaughn was the plucky underdogs who came in, no problem. But when you're going against the juggernauts they are, and they showed why they're the juggernauts, that demolishes the morale.
Oh, for sure.
I give them full credit though for not giving up and making attacking plays after
They did
attacking
make the
plays.
efforts, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like they sat down and took the beating, right? They did make efforts. But when you, especially for Vaughn, you go into the second half with that lead, you're like, cool. So, what do we do now? Like, I guess
yeah,
defend. We don't need to score anymore, really.
yeah. And they still ended up scoring one more. It
Yeah.
it really did come down. Now I was there at the game, and Blue Devils did. They had a lot of chances and a couple good ones. The keeper was very, very proficient at Vaughn. There's a reason why they're undefeated. That was the reason why that was a 5-1 game, because there were a couple
Exactly.
times that it had just clipped the bar, just clipped over.
Hmm.
It's a scenario that could have gone either way. And you know what? Worth it to check out. Great to see. And now Vaughn moves on to the Voyagers Cup,
Yeah,
and
we'll
they will
see them
be
next year.
now present as a competitor in the Voyagers Cup. So we'll see how they do against CPL teams, the PLSQ, League One
Well, like,
BC, I believe as well.
yeah, but next, I don't think BC got a spot this year. Hopefully, the year after, though.
I think
Um,
it's yeah. Actually, yeah, I believe
yeah,
you're right.
and
Unfortunately,
with Vaughn, I believe if they keep the same format, I believe they will have to play someone on the east side of of the country. So they'll get York or Forge or Ottawa or Halifax. So that could be an exciting game, especially if it's in like York or Forge. And imagine York or Vaughan hosting York or Forge. That could be an awesome thing for that team.
I
And if they pull off an amazing victory and they get like Toronto or Montreal at home, this is what this tournament's for, and I would love to see it.
That's what we all want. We all want.
Mhm.
We all want that FA Cup style. We all
Exactly.
want that like plucky underdog who takes it over because
Yep.
kind of shifting on the finals are amazing. Go and check them out. YouTube, League1 Ontario. Moving on, one of the things to really talk about is the future of League One.
Yeah.
League1 Ontario is the first one in Canada and in North America, excluding Mexico, and actually now technically including Mexico because they've relinquished their promotion relegation,
That's true.
will be introducing promotion and relegation.
They are.
They'll
Yeah.
be going from a League1 Ontario top to 2 different divisions below, and we'll have promotion and relegation
Mhm.
throughout each one of them.
Well, that shows the growth of the sport, right? And it shows what Dino Rossi's trying to get going for this country, not just for the league, but for the country.
Mhm.
The new commissioner of the CPL, Newman, he even said if there's going to be promotion relegation in the Canadian Premier League, he doesn't see it happening without League1 Ontario and if or League1 Canada, sorry. But if League1 Ontario could start a solid pyramid with themselves, that the CPL could like we could adopt this. We could bring your teams, if not every team, into this and let's get it going. This is where it all starts, and this is where we need it to start. This is where we need success. We need to see the support. We need to see all this stuff. But now that we know that's coming, something we don't know what's coming is the future for television rights on League1, League1 Canada, League1 Ontario. We do know League1 BC is with Home Team Live, which we do have a code for. If you guys want to check them out, specifically for next season, it's for it's
Full
FC
year.
13.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
FC13 podcasts. You get 25% off a full year subscription.
right.
We actually paid for one ourselves. Like we bought a subscription. I'll honestly say it's fantastic
It's
quality. The
great quality.
commentators great. The camera quality is great. Really awesome to watch.
Safe to
Home
say, better than YouTube's, honestly.
Yeah, it is, and that's the difference between a paid enterprise and not.
Yep.
And it's super affordable. Like I said, it's worth it to check out because for the extra games, and they also have local baseball there too. So if you're
Yep.
looking for even more sports, then Home Team Live FC13 podcast, all one word, FC number 13
Mhm.
podcast. You get 25% off. How do you say no? It's already stupid affordable to begin with, so 25% is amazing. But
Exactly. My point with that was League1 Ontario needs to either get something like that or try to get on the one soccer train. Because, I mean, as the leagues grow, as Canada soccer grows, things are going to change, especially TV rights. It happens with every country, every league. You see it with the MLS now going to Apple. So I don't know if the CPL will be on one soccer forever. But if they can lock up League1 Canada, that could be huge for one soccer going forward.
massive because these teams you're going to notice the support's either going to come in and the teams will flourish or it'll
Exactly.
decay and the teams will go down and they'll notice that. They'll start to get it. It's a reason why you start getting, 6,000, 5,000, 4,000 people each game out to, a fifth division England game is because they know the support matters, the money matters, all of that stuff.
And
And
plus,
that's
you can't
how you
watch
get,
soccer on TV there.
well, yeah, well, you watch football on TV there.
Oh. Hey, yeah, but
Oh,
fuck you. They have soccer Saturday. Fuck
all
you.
right, all
Hey,
right. Soccer am, soccer am. Yeah. But still, it's one of those scenarios where I think it's going to be really, really beneficial. They have to do it and jump on, and they very well might. I'm also even okay with just having it on YouTube, but throwing ads in left, right, and center.
yeah, makes the
Like that.
quality better. Like the playoffs were hard to watch at times. There's some there was no commentating. There was no scoreboard. I missed. Which game was I was watching? I think it was Simcoe second game. I had no idea it was 1-1 until they scored the second goal because I walked away from my TV for a bit. I didn't hear anything. I come back in. There's no scoreboard, and then they get the winner. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And that is the benefit of having the paid. You can have someone guaranteed to be there because
Exactly.
there's the paid services going on.
No, I understand
So,
that is a restriction for League1 Ontario, right? Like, we
but
might not be there yet, but eventually.
yep, and I mean that's 2 years. They got 2 years to figure it out. I think this next couple a little bit. Canada being in the World Cup is really going to help.
100%.
Women's World Cup coming up really going to help. And
100%.
then they've got the right timing of 2024 is where this promotion relegation is going to start, and people are going to start putting money where their mouths are, and we're going to see it. I think it's one of the most exciting things for me because to me MLS needs it. I think the CPL needs it. League One Canada being an overarching, if you're not familiar, is going to be the overarching. And then we're going to have League One BC. We're going to have League One Ontario. We're going to have League or PLSQ. That's how it's going to be. So with that promotion relegation, we realistically should get that umbrella.
Yeah, no,
And
100%. At least even if it's a one team, even if it's a one team system, right? Like the winner of each uh provincial league goes into like a playoff or something, where the top four or top two in each one, sorry, goes into a provincial playoffs. Winner goes into the CPL or something. Like,
or yeah, I mean, or even again, you just do the top 3 from each league, depending on how long it goes into that one,
yeah,
like the Premier League.
yeah,
Like you have a very quick jump up, and then it goes into the CPL. Like it goes from the national leagues into League One, League Two, Championship, and Premier League, which is the exact same system as England. It just most people see it as linear, and then they don't count it, but it does split off like that.
Oh no, yeah,
Could
it
be
does,
the
yeah.
exact same system, but it gives the opportunity for money, investment, and people who are local to think about this as a long-term viable sport, because that's how we get our development. Is people looking at hockey, looking at baseball, looking at cricket, and looking at footy, because it
Curling,
is a thing.
can't forget the
Curling,
curling. Yeah. Lawn
CF,
darts.
well, that's banned. But it's a scenario that gives them the opportunity to think this could be a sport for me. I play this in my school. I think this is what I want to do. I'm
It's
really
cheap.
good at it. I want to put on it. And new people, new immigrants are coming here, new families, younger families, poorer families. It's a way for them to put their kids in these sports and these kids to take serious interest and long term in it. And that could be your Alfonso Davies, your Kyle Larens,
Exactly.
your Tajon
100%. It's
Buchanan's,
crazy
your
how multicultural Canada is, and soccer just isn't at the highest peak it could be. But they're in the right steps of getting there. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, right? It
yep.
will get there, though.
Yep. And I think that's what we'll end up getting. And we're gonna get it. And it's just exciting to see. I mean, you know what? I'm excited to see what teams come up and what ones don't. But I think for us, that's gonna have to be it. I do want to thank Michael, obviously, one of the proprietors here now for our YouTube channel and our TikTok. Make sure not to forget us on TikTok. It's the same name, FC13. Make it easy. It's not hard. Okay? Go follow or look or do something with it. Take it to the bathroom, watch while you poop. I don't care what you do. But
That's what I do.
yeah, that's what I'm on it, and that's what I do. So it's a scenario where, guys, thank you so much for checking in and watching this with us. And then remember to check out 13th Man Sports, where you're going to get more than just footy. You're actually going to get articles, you're going to get videos, you're going to get NBA, CFL, NFL, NBA. Like, you're going to have the whole gambit of a whole bunch of different sports, but you're going to get it from a fan's perspective, and you're going to get not so much the analytics of it, but real human just interaction regarding
Fans
it.
being fans, baby.
Yep.
You ever go to a pub before a game? That's what we are.
That's the thing, is you're gonna finally find your outlet there, where it's not gonna be someone saying that this player is crap because of this analytics and that. It's really gonna come down to people who genuinely love to watch it and wake up every day and let 11 people on a grass pitch ruin their weekend. And that's us, and that's what we are. So 13 Man Sports, Michael actually has a lot of articles coming out, a lot of really good ones. Paul, our other host, do the same with Kevin and Ian, dropping articles left, right, and center. Frankie, our producer, is doing amazing. So make sure to go to 13thmansports.ca to check some of that stuff out. And remember, guys, we love having you by here. FC13 Podcast and Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Go and subscribe and check us out. You'll hear a little bit more. Michael, where are we finding you?
Call me Michael right here. You find me on everything and everyone.
Yep. And the exact same scenario, too. You're going to find it right there. The Andrae McCray. Not really, really clever, but my white parents spelled my name all kind of fucked up, so that makes it a little bit harder to find me sometimes. But the Andrae McCray on Twitter, Instagram, all that jazz. Thank you so much, guys, for checking in with us and taking the time to watch this. Really hope you learned something a little bit about League1 Ontario. If you haven't, that's fair. But
we'll be back next year for
it. Yeah, we'll be back. You'll be hearing about it next year when we talk about it all year. Make sure to check out PLSQ, League 1 BC, and League 1 Ontario. Thanks so much, guys, for checking in with us. And remember, watching the FC13 podcast is a lot like watching football through a microwave.